Coming up on Outside the Lines. As disappointing as the season was for SC, it hardly compares to what happened down in Auburn, Alabama. Gene Chizik, just 2 years removed from the national championship, having the roughest SEC season this side of Derek Dooley. Chizik fired yesterday after a 49-0 beatdown at the hands of rival Alabama, completing a winless conference schedule for the Tigers. Paul Feinbaum from the Paul Feinbaum Radio Network down in Birmingham joining us now. Paul, Chizik hired at Auburn after going 5-19 at Iowa State. Then he wins a national title at Auburn in his second year, and then the program absolutely craters. Historic plunge for a national champion. What are we to make of Gene Chizik's run there at Auburn?
Well, I think you sum it up in 2 words, Cam Newton. Without Cam Newton, Gene Chizik would have been fired probably a year or two ago. Cam Newton came in and made Gene Chizik a household word in this country. And really, I don't know what else to say other than Gene Chizik will likely be a Final Jeopardy answer one day to the question, who's the worst coach to ever win a BCS championship?
Usually you win a national championship, and that gives you a huge boost in recruiting. You build off that, and you cement your program. Why wasn't Chizik able to do that?
Because, Gary, he lost complete control of the program. Frankly, I'm not sure he ever had it. But over 40 players, over 40 recruits have now departed this program, including Michael Dyer, who was the MVP of the national championship game 2 years ago against Oregon. He just simply couldn't hold on. I think the Cam Newton investigation 2 years ago this week, which it ended 2 years ago this week, I think did some serious damage. A lot of corners were cut. I think the stench of that never really went away. I think he lost control of his staff. He made a coordinator change, 2 actually a year ago, and I think there was bitterness underneath. And in the end, it did crater. And quite frankly, I'm surprised Auburn went 3-9 because it took an overtime to beat La Monroe this year.
There are reports now that Auburn is being investigated again for the recruitment of running back Javon Robinson. Does Chizik leave Auburn better or worse than when he got there?
Well, it's a tough question because Auburn won its first national championship in 53 years under his watch, and a lot of Auburn fans have said, we'll take that. But I don't think they'll take it when this is all over with. This story is a long way from being over, David. I think it's going to get much worse. I think it involves more than one player in Memphis. And there's something even more complex for the next Auburn coach. You're in the toughest division in football. That goes without saying. And you're also in the shadow of Nick Saban across state. And I'm not sure who you can find that will be able to compete with Nick Saban, who is easily the best coach in college football right now.
So if you ask a Tigers fan, after 4 years of Gene Chizik, was it worth it? What's the answer?
I think the majority would say yes, because they won that first national championship in over 50 years. But check back with me in a couple of years after we see the damage to this program that Chizik has caused.
All right, the Auburn Tigers, a winless SEC. Any thoughts now, Paul? You alluded to it. Any thoughts on who might take that job down there in Auburn?
Well, we may have a whole nother show after what I say. Bobby Petrino, yes, Bobby Petrino of Arkansas, is one of the 3 names being considered, along with Gus Malzahn, the former coordinator, and Jimbo Fisher, who's now at Florida State.
Some very interesting. Jimbo Fisher's done a very nice job at Florida State. You would wonder if he would want to make that move to Auburn and, as you mentioned, recruit in the state of Alabama up against Nick Saban. Paul Feinbaum from the Paul Feinbaum Radio Network in Birmingham. Good enough to join us today on Outside the Lines. Paul, we do appreciate it. Thank you. And we invite you to check out our page at facebook.com/OTL. You can follow me on Twitter at David Lloyd ESPN. Your thoughts and comments on today's show. And download our podcast at ESPN.com or subscribe for free at iTunes.